from the BBC World Service in association with ABC and Akashvani. This is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in London, where both the men and women's Pakistan team have been touring at the moment, although the weather hasn't been terribly kind to them. In the meantime, though, our producer here at Stumped, Charlotte, has been getting things ready for us to take the programme out to New York next week. Very much looking forward to that for the Men's T20 World Cup. Well, speaking of which, I don't know whether you've seen the reports of the torrential rain, the tornado that hit the stadium in Dallas, Texas. So they've got a little bit of rebuilding to do before that opening game on Saturday.
Brett Sprague here at the ABC in Sydney, where we are basically onto our final day, I think, before winter officially starts. But the cricket will keep us warm, the World Cup, which we'll get into later. I did enjoy also watching the latest edition of The Test docuseries, featuring a particular host of this program. Not one to get caught up in the emotion, Ali. I thought you maintained focus on the facts and that very gripping Ashes series, so that was great to see.
Journalistic integrity.
Hi, I'm Sunil Gupta for Akashvani. And I'm stuck in a small village in the hill state of Himachal Pradesh, very close to Dharamshala, where that magnificent stadium is. And now there's this break between the IPL and the T20 World Cup. And everyone here is taking a break, except for the buzz around the next coach of the Indian cricket team. And who that's going to be, we do not know yet.
Oh, I want to be where you are, Sunil. I love that backdrop for everyone watching on YouTube. It looks quite exotic up there in the hills. I'd love to be there. Now, with the ICC Men's T20 World Cup almost here, we are going to be speaking to the captain of Uganda about what impact the team nicknamed the Cricket Cranes can make in their first ever World Cup. But we start, of course, with the biggest final of the year to date, the final of the IPL. And it wasn't a vintage final, has to be said, for tension and drama, but Kolkata Knight Riders became champions for the third time and their first title since 2014. They beat Sunrisers Hyderabad, captained by Pat Cummins, quite comfortably by 8 wickets, bowling them out for just 113, the lowest total ever in an IPL final, and then knocking off the runs with some ease. And it has been quite a turnaround for the boys in purple, who finished down in 7th place last season. And Sunil and Brett, I know we haven't had either of you on that much during this year's tournament, so I'm keen to get your thoughts on the competition as a whole. But if we just focus on KKR for the moment, I mean, Sunil, they were clearly the best team in the league. They only lost 3 games across the whole campaign, which equalled the late Shane Warne's Rajasthan Royals from 2008. And they topped the table. What for you made them so dominant?
They're a well-rounded team. I think the critical thing is if they have every base covered. If you just compare them to RCB, right? RCB had no spin bowlers whatsoever, and they relied only on their batsmen. Maxwell failed, and some part-time spin bowlers. And frankly, it was the sensational all-round duo of Sunil Narine and Andre Lussen. Now, there are 3 stats that are very important here. One is KKR never lost during a run chase. Secondly, they did not take more than 17 overs to chase down a total. And the most compelling is that they scored over 60 runs in every power play. Now, when you have those stats backing you, you know that they're going to be winning. And they led from the front. I mean, they were number 1 right through the tournament. They deserved to win.
Yeah, it was highly impressive. And Brett, speaking of impressive, on last week's show, we touched on Aussie quick Mitchell Starc and his impact, how he came to the party at just the right time, getting wickets after a fairly quiet first half of the IPL. And boy, he carried that on in the final, didn't he? 2 for 14. But it was the manner and the timing of those wickets which just put KKR on the front foot straight away.
Yeah, and I do wonder whether the majority of team owners would take that sort of result. You pay big money for a player, in this case the most money for Mitchell Starc. You want him to have sustained performances across the tournament, but ultimately all that really matters is they win the competition. The prize money, the glory that comes with that, in KKR's case, their first title in 10 years. So he certainly earned his keep in the end, Mitchell Starc, didn't he? As far as just hitting form at the right time and that quality shining through at the end, it's never always a guarantee. But in Mitchell Starc's case, especially with the white ball, things do always sort of come around in the end. There are countless examples, and I think even quite recently, the last ODI World Cup in India as well, where his form was lacking in the early stage of the tournament. He saved his best at the knockout stages, 6 wickets in 2 games. He's got a number of records. You go back to the 2015 World Cup, he was player of the series, claimed the most wickets in 2019 in England. And as I say, I think he actually went past Glenn McGrath as the Australian with the most wickets in all ICC tournament finals. So yeah, he does have that big game quality, Mitchell Starc. I guess at this advanced stage of his career, he's 34 now. You know what works, and you can trust yourself to deliver in key moments. And that mental side of the game is huge because you have to overcome that doubt when you're in bad form. And his detractors in the past have included Shane Warne, even Ian Healy, the uncle of his own wife, Elisa, often saying he doesn't stand up enough, but he's overcome that doubt. And I think this IPL final, this IPL campaign as a whole is another great example of that.
So Neil, sticking with KKR, the captain Shreyas Iyer, not selected for the upcoming World Cup. Can you talk a little bit about the impact he's had, though, on this tournament? And can he feel a little bit sore not to be going?
Yeah, I think he will feel a little bit sore. At the end of the day, he is the captain of the winning team of the IPL. That counts for something. But, the funny thing is about the Indian squad, that no player from the teams that played the final are in the squad. So
yeah, true. I read that as well.
You may, but it's there. That's right. But again, if you really look at his stats, 351 runs in 14 innings. I mean, did his stats really warrant his being there? So I think really, if you put all those things into the mix, then you'd say, is it a mistake? We'll know after the tournament. But right now, as Nasser Hussain said, I just read this morning. He said, India are the favorites to win the World Cup because of the players they've left behind. Which
that's something terrific.
In that. So you can see it in that wry British humour.
Remember that you can get in touch with us here on Stumped. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note. Please do, because we love to hear from you and we can get you on the show with that. The number you need is +44 800 032 0470. +44 800 032 0470. Include your name and tell us where you're listening to us from. We would love to hear. Next on Stumped, the ICC Men's T20 World Cup is upon us. And last week we heard from one team making their debut in Canada. Well, this week we're going to hear from another. You may remember I actually went to this African nation last year. I met the women's team after one of their training sessions, and some of the men's squad were there as well. I'm talking about Uganda, or the Cricket Cranes, as they are known. The Uganda men's team has never, ever had a kit sponsor even before. Now, I learnt when I was out there that they have to travel to Kenya if they want to buy a new cricket bat, for example, because there are no cricket stores in Uganda. And now they are featuring in a World Cup. And they've got that kit sponsor deal for the very first time, which shows the significance of their achievements in qualifying. Now, I've been speaking to their captain, Brian Masaba, and he began by explaining why they are called the Cricket Cranes.
Our name comes from our national bird, so the crested crane, the national bird for the country. It was picked because of its graceful nature. It's a very solitary bird, but very graceful. A lot of our national teams are named after the crested crane. So it just so happened that we became the Cricket Cranes.
The alliteration works wonderfully. How special then will it be for you to be leading out Uganda at their first ever Cricket World Cup?
I don't think I have the words quite yet. It's obviously very, very special. Just leading my country is something truly special for me. But to do it at a World Cup for the first time in our history is... it's remarkable, and it's not something I ever imagined in my wildest dreams. And for it to come true in my lifetime, it's truly something to write home about.
Give us a sense of the cricket journey that you've been on with Uganda to get to this point.
I made my debut 2011, so I've been with the team quite a while, and I've been there through all the ups and downs. So, I understand what it has taken for us to get to this stage, the amount of sacrifice and effort from everyone involved. So, to finally make it to a World Cup after so many near misses and trials and attempts, it's huge for us as a country, it's huge for us as an association, but it's also big for us individually, because there's quite a number of guys that have been on that journey for quite a while. And, this is some sort of justification for them, finally making it to a World Cup.
I'll come to one of those individuals specifically in just a moment. But in your group, when you get out to starting off in Guyana, aren't you? You've got Afghanistan, Papua New Guinea, West Indies, and New Zealand. So, what for you would constitute a successful World Cup? What are you targeting?
I keep saying to the guys, the most important thing is for us to make a mark on the cricketing world. We've got the platform. It doesn't get bigger than this. I mean, it's the best of the best in the world, and for us to go out there and actually make a mark on the cricketing world would be huge for us. We want to bring a little bit of our culture, our Ugandan culture, to the world stage. We want to show that there's cricket in a country called Uganda, and that there's guys that can actually play. And if we can pick up a couple of wins along the way, that would be a huge bonus. But most importantly, and bottom line is, we need to make a positive impact, lasting impact. We want to leave something that will be remembered by the world for a long time.
Now, I was in Kampala a year ago. You weren't there, unfortunately, when I came down to Lugogo Oval when some of the team were training, but I did meet, when I was there, Frank Nsubuga, who's been named in your squad. And at the age of 43, as he is now, he's set to become the oldest cricketer to play in the tournament. Can you tell me a little bit about him?
Yeah, what can I say about Frank? He's been
quite a character.
He's been there from the very beginning. I mean, I remember as a kid, growing up and watching the national team play, and Frank was already doing what he does and doing it well too. And so he's been that cornerstone that has been around, for all this time. And to actually play alongside him later in my career, it's something very, very special. I attribute one of the reasons for our qualification to wanting to do it for him, because we knew he was coming to the end of his career, and I think this is something that he can be remembered by. For him to actually play at a World Cup, the kind of career he has had, the commitment he has had to Ugandan cricket, it's the least he deserves. So we're happy to do that for him as a group, and we're just excited that he'll be featuring at the World Cup. He's such a huge inspiration to everyone in Ugandan cricket, including the next generation. So I'm just really, really happy for him and really pumped up. He's such a professional, and the way he goes about it, his commitment, he's never late for training. He's always the first guy in whatever drills we're doing, and he's always willing to put his hand up for the team. So I'm just really happy for him.
He did tell me he takes some inspiration from James Anderson, who has now announced his Test retirement. Frank, do you think this will be Frank's final appearances for Uganda? Has he said that he's stopping?
Well, he hasn't said it, and he's Frank, so I wouldn't put it past him to go on another 10, 15 years.
I should point out he's an off spinner as well, not a fast bowler, and he did acknowledge that's probably helped him in his longevity rather than being a Jimmy Anderson and trying to bowl fast. Can I ask you also about Simon Sizazi, because he is the only batter from Uganda to score 2,000 T20 international runs. He's your leading run scorer in that format. So how much will you be looking to him when you get out to the World Cup?
Yeah, Simon is a key player for us. He's been incredibly consistent for us, over the last 2 or 3 years. And it's not a mistake that he's our leading run scorer in T20s. He's been doing that for quite a while now. And, he comes from a cricketing family. His elder brother is also in the squad, Henry Senyondo. So, it's a family thing for them. He's when he does well, the team tends to do well as well. So, he'll be a key player for us. And, hopefully he goes well at the World Cup.
And what sort of support, Brian, and profile are the cricket cranes gaining in Uganda through qualifying and going out to a World Cup? And what do you think or hope will come of that? And what does cricket in Uganda need? Is it funding from government? What are your hopes from here?
My biggest hope is that we can build on this platform. It's obviously generated a lot of interest in the country. Us qualifying for a World Cup for the first time. Not many of our national teams get to play at the World Cup. If I'm not mistaken, we could be the second or third in the history of sports in the country to make it to a World Cup. So, it's a huge thing. But what would be critical for Ugandan cricket is if the government can get more involved now, especially in terms of infrastructure developments, because that's what the game needs the most. Cricket is just one of the games where you do need the facilities. So if the government could get a bit more involved after this, I believe it wouldn't be our last time to feature at the World Cup, because the potential is there, the talent is there. But if we can get that right, then I think we'll do much better than we've done so far.
Well, let's hope you draw in a big audience and big support as you go along. We'll look forward to seeing you in action. Brian, thank you so much for being with us on Stumped.
Thanks for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, it's a pleasure speaking to him. That was Brian Masaba, captain of the Uganda men's team. So Uganda in Group C at the World Cup with West Indies, New Zealand, Afghanistan and Papua New Guinea. I can attest to what he says about facilities. I mean, they do very well. The outfield at Lagogo Oval, for example, was definitely not flat and smooth like Lord's, possibly marred by the fact I think a concert had just been staged there a couple of days prior to when I went along. But I mean, Brett, they beat Zimbabwe on the way to qualification for this World Cup. That's a significant scalp to have kept out of this tournament.
Absolutely. So they've earned the right to be there. And what I love about this is a team of winners. So I was looking at this recently. Brian Masaba has the second most wins as captain in international cricket behind Babar Azam of Pakistan. So obviously they're playing a different tier of competition, but they're used to winning. So they're coming into a World Cup. It's a big occasion for them. You might fancy them for the odd upset. It's going to be a great thing to see. But this is what we love about these tournaments. And we always ask ourselves, what's the best way to structure up these ICC events? And we don't want to have sort of one-sided games and teams making up the numbers, supposedly. But this is great. These stories are brilliant, and it's what we love about international cricket more broadly.
Yeah, it's been fun seeing all the teams, actually, their social media on arrival and some of them getting into their warm-up matches. Shout out to Edgar, the team psychologist, and Dennis, the media man, because I know they are avid watchers of Stumped. They get together every Friday and watch us on YouTube. So shout out to the two of you. Now, our producer wants us to pick semi-finalists, which I just think is so hard for a T20 tournament. I think once you get to a stage where kind of anyone could win. But I mean, I suppose if you had to pick four, I'll tell you, I'll run through, because the way the format works, yes, we've got the four groups, A, B, C and D, of 5 nations each. The top 2 of each group go through to the second round, called the Super 8s, but the teams are seeded. So it's possible to predict if, we've been talking about upsets, but if the seedings work and the higher ranked teams do progress as per their ranking, then you'll end up with the Super 8s. Group 1, India, Australia, New Zealand and Sri Lanka. And Group 2, Pakistan, England, West Indies and South Africa. So from there, you need to pick 2 from each of those groups to go through for the semis.
The beauty of this shortest format is you never quite know. I've played it fairly safe with my 4. England, India, Australia, West Indies is how I see it. Okay,
Sunil, you've got to have India in there.
Yeah, well, surprisingly, yeah, well, yes, I've got to. You've got to give me 5 then, Ali, because I've got to have India. I can't not say India, but Australia. But of course, they've got to be there. I think South Africa have been playing some brilliant cricket. I think they're going to be there. I think England are going to be there as well.
Well, I'm going to be controversial then, just to be different, and say that I think India will make it, but I think New Zealand are going to get to the semis as well, because they just so often are in the semis of T20 World Cups. But then that means someone from that group misses out, and that means that's Australia missing out if I'm putting India and New Zealand in. And, maybe there's a case for saying that, say, Cummins, Stark, Travis Head, they've all gone through a full IPL. Could they be a bit fatigued? Is Mitch Marsh going to be fully fit to play that bowling role in the side as well? So maybe that's my caveat. For the second group to go through, I am going to go with England. They haven't had the most productive warm-up because of the rain they've had in this Pakistan series, but they do have big hitters. They've got Jofra Archer back. They've got that extra pace, which really could make a difference on slower pitches. And I'm going to put the West Indies in there as a home team to make it through. They're 2-time winners of the World Cup already. So, yeah, let's give the West Indies a crack on their home soil. Well, that was all we've got time for on this week's Stumped. I'll be with you from the Big Apple next week. My thanks to Brett Sprigg and to Sunil Gupta and to all of you for listening. Until New York, it's bye for now.